mental health, depression, and anxiety is there's no cure for it, but there are ways that get
Get through it.
cope, right, manage to be able to manage and live a
Yes.
a meaningful and a well-being life.
What's up, siblings? Welcome to another episode of Two Different Sisters, the podcast.
We're your hosts,
Cassie, i.e., not a Y.
and I'm Juju. On this episode, we'll be talking mental health and giving you 5 tips to cope with your anxiety and depression.
Before we get into it, we need y'all to hit that subscribe button, plus like this video, and it'll equal to us keeping this content coming. So before we actually get into the meat of it all, right, I think we should start off by defining mental health, in particular, depression and anxiety.
Okay, so I can give you guys the professional definition. I don't want to get it wrong, so let me look it up for you guys really quickly. Give me 1 second.
Why you didn't have it ready already? Now y'all gotta wait on her, siblings.
I'm ready. I'm ready now. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, also known as the CDC, depression is a common mental health condition characterized by feelings of sadness, hopelessness, and loss of interest in activities. Anxiety is a group of mental health disorders characterized by excessive worry, fear, and nervousness. While depression and anxiety can co-occur, they are distinct conditions with different symptoms and causes. Everyone is somehow suffering from depression and anxiety. And it could be
Even the kids.
right. I'm trying to figure out with technology and kids having so much access to social media and people, are people actually suffering from anxiety and depression? Or is it more of like they're just using that as an excuse or a way to bypass some either real or non-real internal issues that they actually may be facing?
I wasn't sure where you was going with that, but okay, it is a valid question,
Yeah.
right? It's hard to say. It is really hard to say. I think, like with all things, people take things and they use it to their advantage, right? And they taint it and they fuck with it so it's hard to say. I'm sure there are people out there who don't want to go to work. And so they tell their boss, oh, I have depression, I have anxiety, I can't come in today. But for the most part, I think that it is what it seems like because of the fact that it was so heavily not paid attention to. I don't think it wasn't always as bad as it is now. I just think people didn't invest the time to take it as seriously as they should have. And not to mention, especially with this newer generation, these younger kids, mine included, the pandemic fucked them up.
That's true.
So I wholeheartedly believe they are depressed. They are, anxious about everything. And they don't know how to deal with it.
I noticed that kids who have parents that, I wouldn't say that the parents have anxiety, but they're ultra sensitive or very overprotective over their kids.
I was going to say like hover parents.
Yeah, hover parents. Those are the kids that I notice have some form of anxiety or depression. Like that mom that's like, be careful when you're crossing the street. Be careful when you're crossing the street. That kid then it's like, oh my gosh, I need to be careful when I'm crossing. It gives them this like...
Right. Well, like those kids, do you think they're anxious like their parents are or fearful, or they're just like, yo, I got to pay attention when I'm crossing the street?
I think that they're anxious. And the reason I say that is because oftentimes that's when things happen to them because they're overly thinking about it. Like, oh my gosh, all right, so be aware of crossing the street so you don't get hit by a car. I'm overly thinking about it, and there's now because I'm overly thinking about that situation.
You've created this anxiety surrounding
it. And I want to say, and we did not say this prior to, we are not mental health professionals in no way,
medical
shape,
experts of
at
any
all.
Form.
We're just going based off of either
our experiences and our opinions.
our opinions, or we, stated where we found information from that we are providing to you guys today.
Okay, I can see that, right? The parent, it rubs off on the child because they're like sponges and they take it in, and then these things become, what they do, like, instinctually and all of that stuff. Now, I don't know if I would say that, like, I feel like those are the majority of the people. I could see why,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, while you're on the topic of experiences, what experiences have you faced when it comes to depression and anxiety?
You know, if you guys watched the previous episode, then you definitely know that I do suffer from depression. Anxiety, I haven't really quite figured out yet. Yeah, all of my children are ADHD neurodivergent. That is a challenge in itself, right? And the fact that they're neurodivergent is not what makes me depressed. It's everything that comes with it. You know, these are all things I've stated in a previous video. So, you know, like I said, I definitely suffer from depression, and that is one of the major triggers for me, you know, because it's so excessive, you know. And not only that, but the fact that as a mom, right, your kids are struggling with something. And no matter what you do, you don't know how to make this better for them. Not only for them, but the people around them, because it eventually affects the family dynamic as a whole. Right. So, yeah, that is one of the things that makes me very depressed. And when I am depressed, I'm out. Like, don't look for me, because I am absolutely all the way out. Like, I do not want to answer my phone. I do not want to turn on the light. I don't want to be I want to be left alone. Like, and I'm one of those people that I deal with things by going through it. Just let me go through. And I understand it's probably not the healthiest thing to do, but
Right.
that is just the way I deal with my depression.
Okay, did you self-diagnose yourself, or did a mental health professional diagnose you?
So keep in mind, I am a veteran, right? So even before, what is for my face? Do you see it and not say
It
nothing?
came off. I thought that was your mole. I'm gonna be so honest.
So as far as, you know, how I was diagnosed. So as a veteran, you know, I came out through medical, whatever. So that was actually one of the diagnoses. I got that as one of my diagnoses, right? And I can't recall off the top of my head exactly how they classified it, but it was like other whatever. And it was because that actually had to do with PTSD from, you know, some car accidents I was in or whatever. But I hadn't received the classification of PTSD just yet. So they had classified it as like other anxiety, depression, and whatever. So technically, yes, I do have
Okay.
but not for what actually daisy chained my depression itself.
Okay.
And the crazy thing is, right, they say that it's hereditary, depression, you know, and anxiety too, I guess, is something that's hereditary. And, you know, siblings, you know, for those who don't know, which is most of y'all, our mom actually has depression and anxiety. So it made sense when it started hitting me, especially so heavily. Like, okay, this is in our, you know, blood, so to speak. Yeah. What about you? Would you say that you have depression and anxiety? And what's your experience when it comes to that?
So for me, I would not say that I have depression and anxiety per se. I'll say that my experience as far as depression and anxiety would have started probably from my adolescent days, just watching my mom go through it. But at that time, I was young. I was in elementary school and on, so I didn't really understand it. And forget that I was young. Me growing up at that time, it was not something that people really talked about.
Right.
Even when my
It was
mom,
either you were crazy or you
exactly.
weren't.
So
Yep.
even when my mom was diagnosed early on,
Why you keep saying my mom like that's not my mother too?
okay, that's my mother. Anyways, you're adopted. I need to see proof. She found at the time that she was diagnosed. Again, I was still young, and she didn't explain that to me. She never explained what was wrong with her.
Right,
So
that's
I was
a
just
fact.
going through the motions.
We just knew
with
she was
her.
sick,
Exactly.
right.
We just knew she was sick. So I was just kind of going through the motions with her. And then later on in life, when me and my sister kind of reconnected. When I say reconnected, it was just like we just had differences.
I went away.
Right? She went away.
Yeah, we're different people. Two different sisters.
Right,
And
two
yeah.
different sisters. So when we kind of reconnected and, you know, had the bond that we have now, I too was like that person that stepped in to like be the person that she would speak to, or like help her through, you know, navigate through her anxiety and depression. Same way with my mom, I guess.
So you
But
personally don't necessarily suffer from
I
anxiety and
don't
depression, but you have a
suffer-
lot of experience.
Yeah, but I have a lot of experience with it. And then as far as anxiety, I don't want to diagnose myself with anxiety, but after having my son, I noticed that
You're more anxious about
I'm
certain
more
things.
anxious about certain things, but it's particularly with him. It's not even like with my life per se.
That ain't
It's
anxiety.
like-
That's just first time mom shit.
so like for me, everything with him, if he's not in my sight, even if he's in a different room with another adult, like if I even hear them speaking to him, I'm like, what's happening? You know, what's going on? You know, all of that. Typical, maybe first mom syndrome, or it can just be anxiety. I don't know.
Right.
I have self-diagnosed myself with anxiety, but I have not been diagnosed by a
Clinically.
professional.
Okay.
And just real quick, like while we're on this topic, I really do want to know, since we both have kids, did you suffer from postpartum?
You with the first one I did not.
Okay.
The middle one I definitely did not. If you know, you know. And my last one, I seen, a doctor, and it's crazy because they said, yeah, I have a bit of postpartum, lingering postpartum or whatever, because of the age that my son was, right?
Okay.
They usually classify, postpartum to be between a certain age range.
Okay.
And he was outside of that age range. So, they said something about it was lingering or
Okay.
whatever have you. And then other people said no, simply because of how you define postpartum.
Okay.
So, but I definitely fucking think I did. It was, yeah, like, I think I did.
Okay. I did not suffer from postpartum. I just did not.
just did.
Like, I just did not. And I'm
Okay.
grateful for that. I just did not.
Right.
So, yeah. Siblings, please help us welcome
Founder and CEO of Carmel's Depression, Anxiety, and Wellness Foundation.
published author
And our mommy.
Marie Antoine-Pierre. Woo!
Hey.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you, siblings, for having me on your show.
We appreciate you coming out to, help us help the siblings get through, how to manage depression and anxiety, because it is a very real thing. It's a very important thing. And I think everyone can use all the help that they can get with it from everywhere that they can find it.
Totally agree with you.
So without any added delay, let's start off with you sharing your lived experience in regards to depression and anxiety with the siblings.
Oh, well, for me, it's 22 years now since I struggled with this depression and anxiety disorder. 22 years ago, I was not comfortable to speak about it because of the stigma, that and the negative connotation, that they have on this disease. So, back in the days, they once you talk about mental health or you're experiencing, the word out there was that you're crazy, right? And so today I'm very grateful that there's more light, highlights on this
Yes,
topic,
yes.
and people are now becoming more comfortable to speak about it. And I'm so thankful that God has given me this opportunity to be able to share my story, my platform, to have people, especially in our disfranchised communities, to be able to be comfortable to come out and share their stories, because the whole ideal about this is to get people to wellness, right? And so if if people are educated about what's happening with them, they'll be more inclined, more comfortable to adapt to it, accept it, and be able to get the help that they need to help get them to wellness. And one of the other things that I want you to know is that mental health, depression, and anxiety there's no cure for it, but there are ways that you can,
Get through it.
cope, right? Manage, to be able to manage and
Yes.
live a meaningful and a well-being life.
Love it. Love it. And that's definitely why we brought you on here today, to share some of those ways that they can actually put into practice that'll help them. To piggyback off of what you said, right? I think a lot of times we overlook this. Not only are people more willing to speak about it, but people are more willing to hear about it. They're more open to what that means and what it looks like when somebody says that I feel like I'm depressed or I have anxiety.
Correct. We're not only educating the individual struggling with this disorder, but you're also educating the
The people
the
around
public,
them
the
on how to
people
manage it,
around
because
them,
you may
right.
not yourself be experiencing.
Correct.
Like Juju was saying, right? She personally does not experience depression, but she has a lot of experience with depression.
She's
from
associated,
me, associated, right? From
correct.
me, from you, So yeah, that's big. Not just educating the individual, but the people around them as well.
So I noticed that you said that you noticed or realized that you had depression about 22 years ago. So how did that actually come about?
Well, I never knew what mental health was, because that wasn't a topic of discussion in my home growing up, especially in the Caribbean, household. For example, my mom, with her her healing thing was
Louis Maschetti.
no, for my mom, not no. Her healing things was a Pepto-Bismol. Anything that you said that is wrong with you. So if you have a headache or you say you're feeling sad, go take a cup of, a spoon of Pepto-Bismol, and everything should be okay. When in reality, that's not. That wasn't the case. But again, and our family members, our loved ones, not that they didn't love us, but they were ashamed of, of the whole topic itself, right? So 22 years ago, I was diagnosed with depression, having depression. And so that was over the loss of my sister, right? I never knew what that was, but, we were very close. And you can only imagine, how hard and difficult, that was for me, losing someone who was practically like my mom, right? And so I kept going to the hospital, in and out of the hospital, because I had so many, you know, different feelings that was taking over my body. It felt like a foreign, a foreign object that just invaded. And I kept going in the hospital, but going into the hospital, I kept saying that I was coming in with asthma. I was coming in, with a headache. I wasn't really telling the
Telling them,
doctors,
right.
what was wrong, until one day I went to Caledonian Hospital and I met with Dr. Brown. Once she triaged me, she already knew that it was something more than my asthma, because I wasn't wheezing, my lungs was clear. And then she said, okay, she said, it's gonna be all right, but what is going on? And I just
love that.
broke out into tears.
I love that.
And then I started to I shared with her what was happening.
So you mentioned like having these feelings that felt like such a foreign, entity to you, right? Because that is the difference, right? A lot of people say like, well, everybody's depressed. I mean, everybody's depressed because we all get sad, right? But that's not depression. Being sad is not depression.
Right.
It's how often you find yourself sad, how much it's impacting your daily living, right? So when you talk about these feelings, tell us exactly what are like these some of these specific feelings for those who don't know, who haven't been able to say, yes, okay, that's what that is. I feel depressed.
So for me, over time, I was feeling really sad, and I was internalizing stuff, right? And I felt like I was walking this journey on my own, because I couldn't share it with anybody, right? Even for you guys, you guys were much younger, right? So I couldn't share those things with you, and I had to also keep you all protected and safe as well.
Right.
So it was to the point where it started to get these feelings. I started to feel sweating, and my loss of appetite. I wanted to stay in the dark. I disassociated myself with society, and I felt anxious. So all of these things, coming together and experiencing every day, every second, that's when you starting to feel, these things have taken over your body, where you starting hearing things, you understand? So now, even up to that, it wasn't until I went to Dr. Brown had referred me to Leach Hospital at the time. It's no longer there, but it was somewhere on Atlantic Avenue. She said, everything is going to be fine, but if you're feeling any way when I discharge you, go to Leach Hospital. They have, at the time, I guess one of the best emergency, mental health unit, if you will. And so, yeah, when I got home, I was still feeling the same way. And I called my, one of my best friends, Cynthia. She came and got me, and, and took me there. And then when I got there, I was triaged by one doctor. And then after that, it was a switch of shift. Right. And I had to wait for the other doctor to come on. Once the other doctor came on, he also triaged me. And then my first question to him was, am I crazy? And then he said, no, you're not. That's when, I started to explain to him the things that was happening to me. And then he said to me, then he explained the process of the brain.
Okay.
The process of the brain. And he said, I went through so many impacts, right? And that,
Right, because not at that time, not only siblings, y'all don't know this, but not only did our aunt pass, her sister, but I believe two other people in your life passed at that same window.
in that same window. And yeah, so he said, that I went through so many different impacts in my life in such short timing. and it did not allow the brain
brain.
to process everything
Okay.
all at once, all at the same time. Give it time to do that. And don't forget, we also had our little puppy Star. We lost Star too.
Star?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
During
all
that
around the same
Oh,
time. You
dang.
know,
Oh,
so while
wow.
y'all
Yeah.
didn't understand or couldn't understand
Right.
maybe why I separated from y'all or what you understand. So yeah, this was this was the thing. That's where did I experience hearing the voices? Yes, I did, and I heard the voice tell me to jump out the window, even kill y'all. Even kill
It's on
y'all.
me.
Yes,
That's serious. That's a
and
lot.
yes,
Yeah.
it is a lot. It's a lot. And then here I am now. That's not normally me. You
Right.
understand?
Right, because we did family game
Right.
nights. All
Exactly.
that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right. That's not how, that's not me. That's not how I function. And, y'all not knowing this, guess what I was doing? I was taking all the sharp objects and saving them away from me because I had to
Right.
save
Right.
y'all and as well as myself.
So,
Right.
You understand? And that's why, like,
That is a lot. I'm sorry, but siblings, that I want y'all to really listen to that. She had to save us and herself from herself by herself. Because at that time, like you said, you felt like you was going through it by yourself. Like you
Right.
couldn't. It wasn't very many people. You just had told Cynthia. That's a lot. That's peel back, yo.
Yeah, it is a lot. So can you imagine for us people who struggles with depression and anxiety or mental health, it's hard. It's a twofold thing. One, you have to mask yourself because you don't want people to,
Right.
to know that you're going through it because again, they don't think you're crazy. And two,
Even
have
today, sorry not to cut you off. Even today, we still feel like we have to mask ourselves, not because it's not accepted, but there's still internally within us there's a shame associated with being depressed. The fact that you can't function, the fact that you
That's
can't.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. And that's one aspect, right? And then now you have to deal with all of these issues, all of these different things that are, boggling your mind, that are taking over your body. I lost, in that amount of time, I lost about 30 something pounds. And it wasn't because I couldn't eat. And y'all know I love ramen noodles, right? One of my favorite foods. When it was cooked, I couldn't even smell it. I wanted to puke. I wanted, so it's very hard.
So I know you have an organization called CDOF. Tell us a little bit about CDOF, how it started, what you guys are doing, things of that nature.
All right. So Seedorf, was founded in January 2023. And again, it was through my life, my lived experiences. And I know that before I said that I felt like I was alone walking this journey, but y'all know that I'm a woman of faith. And I am now learning this, that God saved me because other people do act on these voices that
Very
they
true.
hear,
Very
right? Not intentionally, but it's so hard for them. And so for me, I felt like God saved me in order for me, to carry out this mission for him. So I was sitting down one day and working. I was working remotely over the course of the pandemic. And then, I heard a voice said to me, it's time for you to share your story. And I did a double take, like I was the only one home at the time. But I did a double take because for me, within myself, I wasn't ready to share that story, my story. And so, God have a way of, when he have a mission for you, he'll come back. Okay. 6 months later, same thing. I was working remotely again, and I heard that voice came back and said, it's time for you to share your story because I need you to help me save my other children.
Wow.
Wow.
I said, God, this is you speaking to me. Okay. And so I picked up the phone. I called my girlfriend and my business coach, Dana Bryson, because we speak on
Shout out to
many
Dana.
things. Shout out. And I explained it to her. And she said, Marie, who else to carry out this mission? Who else to do this?
Who better
And
than you?
who better than you? Because you lived the experience. And also, people could relate to you. You understand? People who are going through that same, experience could relate to you. And, let's make it happen. So, we got together, did the process to register the order. And ladies, when I tell you, God had planned this so much for me, down from the name to the logo to the colors. everything was already laid out. Like I saw everything, and that's how Seedorf came to life.
I love that. I love that.
Okay.
And it's true. Like, it's so much easier to, not only did you go through it, but you came through it, right? You overcame it. So it's a lot more relatable. It's a lot more effective than just sitting in front of a doctor who's never been depressed, but just sat here for years hearing
Correct.
people say. So I definitely agree. This was meant for you.
Yes.
So now you're established, you're set up, right? What are some of the amazing things y'all have done so far or plan to do if you have not already?
Okay. So 2023 we launched our first event. We did a mental love your mind and body wellness fair, and so, we invited a lot of agencies came out, a couple of elected officials was there, but the people of the community, they received it so well because they were able to go to different tables, hear people's stories. We even had a young man, Prince, who shared about his own mental health challenge, right? And so we had a little bit of everything for everybody. So for us in Seedorf, remember mental health is broad, right? But our focus and who we're serving, the population that we're serving are people who struggles with depression and anxiety only. Okay, and so so it was really amazing. And following that, again, I was on a conversation with Dana. She said, "Okay, Marie, we're established. You did the first event. Next thing is you gotta put some programs together." And I'm like, "Wow, programs! Like, how are we going to do this? How am I going to make this happen?" And guys, I kid you not. Again, the Lord brought exactly what it is that I'm supposed to do. So I came up with the curriculum, right? I created a program. And for some reason, it led me to the library, the Book and Public Library on Cortelyou Branch. I reached out to the staff that had attended our wellness fair.
Okay. So that led to your second event, or what became your
Co-
first
what-
program.
Correct,
In collab
correct.
with the library.
Correct. And in speaking to Ms. Brambo, so I told her about, what it is that we were looking to do. And she liked the idea. She said, send her the proposal. She's going to share it with her colleagues. And, from there, we're now going on our third annual. This summer, we're preparing for our third annual Let's Talk Mental Health, Depression, and Anxiety summer series, right? It's a 6-week series where we structure 6 different topics related to mental health, depression, and anxiety. And in that, we also incorporate resource session as well, because we want the individuals who are struggling with housing situations, people who are unemployed. You
Right.
understand? So
Because
every
all of
All
these
those
things connect.
lead
connect to that's
depression.
right,
Depression,
leads to
yep.
depression.
Some way.
Exactly.
Okay. Or
Exactly.
can lead.
And also the 5th session, we give the participants a freestyle where they now sit and reflect on their mental stories. They prepare that. We have a culmination celebration the 6th week, and they present their
Nice.
stories.
I love.
Okay, so CDOF, which is actually our acronym for Carmel's Depression, Anxiety, and Wellness Foundation. So you guys are actually doing the legwork for the community. I noticed that, and I'm also a part of the CDOF board.
Shameless plug.
So I can speak from experience that we're actually out there doing the groundwork. I see you guys actually out there in the community. I see you guys putting your names out there, really trying to help a topic that's really taboo. As much as we are seeing it out there, it's also not reaching where we really want it to reach.
Yes.
You understand? The Black and brown community, the Caribbean community. And when I say that, it's because the younger generation, yes, they're more inclined and in tune to speak about their problems, but we still have those generations
in between
before
me
us
and
that I've seen in the clinics come, and they're sitting there and they're not even speaking because they know that they need this help. They know that there is something, that there's an issue, that they're not their normal selves, but they're still not speaking about it. So we really need to be tapping in and continue to put ourselves out there on social media, like as you guys are doing, because there's a lot of people who are not doing it. And one person can feed millions. It just
Correct.
takes the time to start.
Correct. And thank you so much for saying that, for enlightening that. And also, I want people to know that I am not a mental health professional, but I am a mental health advocate.
And
all right?
survivor.
And survivor. And also,
My mama, y'all.
And I'm here to
She was
advocate on
mine first.
behalf
No,
of
she wasn't. You're adopted.
She was mine
No,
first.
you're adopted.
She was. We
Show
just told
me,
you that so
show
you feel
me.
better.
No, girl, bye.
siblings. Let's regroup. But yeah, so and I'm so happy to be the voice of the voiceless.
Ooh,
and
that's
and
nice.
and the work that we're doing, we are giving these individuals the opportunity to be heard and be seen again, okay, so that they can move on and accomplish their goals, right?
Okay, so we talked a little bit about your lived experience, right, which led you to the organization that you founded, right? But we also did mention in your intro that you are a published author. So talk to us about that.
The book is published through my lived experience with mental health, depression, and anxiety, and it's called Buzz Off Funk. I Got This Mind: Recipes for for Depression and Anxiety. Right. So this book is it's a guide. All right, an educational and entertainment guide for individuals who are struggling with with the disorders, just to help them manage. There are coping skills in there, that they will find to help them manage, their mental, into their mental spaces. So the first part of the book is called "Don't Judge," a book by its cover, and the reason why we decided on that first was because if you look at me right now, you're looking at me, you can't tell that I struggle with depression and anxiety,
That's a
right?
fact, yeah.
And so, if you purchase the book, it's on Amazon, you will see, get to learn a little bit about me. And, I'm a bubbly person, always smiling, very helpful. But yeah, I'm walking the streets and and I'm struggling with this challenge.
I love that you said that. Yeah.
All right, I do want to say that just watching you and hearing you talk about this topic, I can see how much or how dear to your heart
The
this
passion,
it
yeah.
really is. I see the passion there. It's just important. I just like to see it. I just
It's
wanted
right,
to
because there's some
shed
people who
light.
show up to work, right? And they're getting paid to be there, and they don't like their job, and
Right.
it shows in every way that they move.
Exactly.
And this is something you're doing based on your experience and simply understanding that other people can benefit, not just
Right,
you,
not just you,
but
right.
other people. And you're so passionate. And
I am very passionate about it, as you can see, because I don't want individuals to have to go through this process alone. And if you notice when I'm speaking, I say we, because I want people of my community, my mental health, depression, and anxiety community, know that they are not alone on this journey.
Okay, mommy. So I know you said in your book there's ways to, I'll just paraphrase, cope or, tips to help those who are maybe suffering from depression or anxiety. So can you just tell us your top 5 that you would say people can use?
For sure, my number one is, if you're into your faith, okay, you can always go and, get your Bible, go through a scripture that you like, or find something of that kind to be able to help you, with that. Second, the second tip that I'm going to give people is to make sure that you seek mental health professional, please. If not anything else, if you don't remember anything else that we said, on this series, please make sure that you seek a mental health professional's advice, okay, to see where you are, because there are different levels as well. Different
Very
levels
true.
as well, right? So you want to know where you're at. And for those who don't know what's happening, like I didn't, from the very beginning, then you'll be able to, to get that. And also, do the things that you like. If you like to exercise, you started to write a book, or whatever it is, you want to accomplish your goals, make sure that you go back to doing these things, right? And take it one day at a time. There's also a 988 number for those who don't know. If you're feeling away, make sure that you call that number. There's always a mental health counselor, somebody on that other end who's waiting for you. And the next thing, don't be ashamed about it. Who cares? Like me now, I said I suffer with mental health, depression, and anxiety. So what? Kick butt. I'm
Talk
happy.
about it.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
Talk about it. And thank you, Juju, for saying that. It's very important that you find someone that you feel comfortable with, and someone who is going to listen to you. Okay, to find someone, and journaling, of course. Pen and paper and pen. You always feel comfortable to write down your thoughts, and you could always go back to that. And yeah, I could go on and on. Like, if y'all only asked me for 5.
I have to say my favorite of those 5 is talk about it. Because for me, with my depression, eventually I reached a place where I did start talking to y'all, right? But before I could get to that place, the most important thing I did was say out loud to myself
Yes.
that I was depressed. And
Yes.
that is talking about it. Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely. And in order for us to be able to help you get there, remember, we could share with you all the resources, all the tips, all of the things that we have to give you. But you have to be able to make that step to want to live and to want to get the help that, that's out there for you.
Mommy, where did you say we can find the book? Say the title and where we can find the book?
Let the siblings know where they can find it at, so y'all can definitely go get it.
All right, ladies. So here it is. It's called Recipe for Battling Depression and Anxiety. Buzz Off Funk, I Got This Mind. And the reason why we called it Buzz Off Funk, I Got This Mind is because we want to let depression and anxiety know that you have no control over us. It's our mind, and we're going to be able to do what we want to do with it and not what you have planned for it.
Nice.
And I
nice.
think, yeah.
So where can they find Buzz Off Funk, I Got This Mind?
They can find it on Amazon. Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so excited to share this story. And I have to give y'all a shout out too because y'all doing, an amazing job.
Thank you so much. Siblings.
Now y'all see where we get it from, or at least me.
Pour moun ki pa konen, nou vle pou nou fò konen ke pran kontrol de tèt ou. OK? Remet tèt ou, et puis gen informasyon de ou pou ou, ou pa besoin honte pou sa moun ap di de ou même. OK? It's all about you, your God, and whatever else that you want to do.
Siblings, let us know in the comments below if you feel or believe you are suffering from anxiety or depression. We definitely can help you get to the right avenues. If you didn't hear it on the podcast today, we'll definitely be able to get you in contact with some of the right sources to try to help you navigate.
Correct.
Before we let you go, just remind everyone where they can find information, all the things.
Well, the book I already said is on Amazon. They can find it there. But as far as Seedorf, for people who want to volunteer or want to learn more about, what we're doing, if they want to donate and volunteers, we're definitely looking for volunteers. And we're inviting the mental health professionals as well. They can visit us at seedorf.org. Okay, and also register. You'll find information to register for the upcoming mental health workshop that we're having at the Book and Public Library.
All right, well, thank you again for joining us. We hope to see you back here with us again sometime soon with more information for the siblings,
Most definitely.
bigger things happen in the community, and possibly another book.
Hey, we never know. That's in the mix.
Continue doing the great work that you're doing. We appreciate you for coming on today.
And thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome, Mommy.
Hey.
And that's our time, siblings.
So the short and sweet of this episode is that if you or someone you know is suffering with anxiety and depression, try these 5 things to manage it.
Dive into your faith, seek professional help, find a hobby, journal, and talk about it.
Appreciate y'all for locking into another episode, and a super special siblings thank you to Marie for joining us today. If you want to know more about what this amazing boss lady has going on and how you can benefit from it, make sure y'all follow her on Instagram at carmels.doff.
As always, be sure to check in every Wednesday at 7 p.m. for conversation, culture, and comical sibling antics.
Until next time, siblings.